Okay, thank you. All right, welcome to day 2 of the 2025 Digital Africa Conference. Yesterday, we had a very interesting moment. We had great people come talk to us about things that were happening and shaping the future of Africa. And we're here again on the second day to continue this conversation and create deeper engagement into everything that we've heard. Okay, my name is Fela Olagunju. And before we get started, I'd like us to quickly just rise up and just do the national anthem, please. Sound.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Vote right and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace, oh, back to honor it, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain. O God of all creation, grant these our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go through a short summary of what happened yesterday. We had Dr. Armstrong Takang, the Chief Executive Officer for the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, talk to us about sovereign intelligence, Africa's voice in the global order. And then next up, we had a great set of panelists talk to us about AI and policy. Professor Joe Amadi, Professor Prema from the Nile University, Dr. Bosun Ayeni, and it was moderated by Angela Agbegi. And we had a great time. We hope that today is going to be as interesting as yesterday, where we get deep insights and conversation that we can carry on for a long time. All right, so today we are going to invite Professor Latif Ladid to give us the keynote speech. Can you connect him? Is he online with us now? Okay, just confirm.
Yes, I am.
Good morning, Professor Latif Ladid.
A pleasure.
Great. You're welcome to join us, and we look forward to a great session with you. All right, sir. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Let me share my screen now. Right. Can you see my slides? Yeah, I think I can just proceed. So it's a great pleasure talking to you today, especially when I was invited by my friend Chris Wage, as he is running the IPv6 Council for Nigeria, but at the same time, the IPv6 Cybersecurity Task Force for Total Africa. And this is an opportune time to discuss the whole issue of the introduction of the new internet and the two-way internet, to empower many new technologies in the going, like 5G, 6G, cloud computing, AI, and blockchain. Now, the internet introduction really had a hard time because already when it was introduced in 1981, 1985, at that time, people didn't like open source protocols because competition was there, and everyone wanted to make his own networking software to be the dominant one, especially IBM with SNA and DEC with DECnet and the likes. So basically, they have pushed more the OSI protocol, so with frame relay, ATM, X25, and so on and so forth, until 1991, when Al Gore and Bob Kahn, when Al Gore was basically asked to intervene in reintroducing the internet and primarily opening the NSFNet, which he did. And he said in one of his speeches during the elections with Bill Clinton in 1991 that Al Gore has invented the internet. So to his credit, he reopened the internet. And by that time, we already had consumed half the address space. It's called legacy address space, which was the address space that was just handed over for free to a lot of companies and the government that wanted to have access or let's say promote the internet in their country. And then many organizations have been started, like the REIRS, and a lot of discussions at the IETF. And then it was agreed that the internet needed to move from primarily an internet based on a research protocol into a production protocol. So the invention or redesign of IPv4 into IPv6 was a really fundamental step. And there were also some other proposals, not at 3, 7, 8, and 9 were also proposed. But our friend John Postel, has preferred the IPv6 approach because it was clean slate. It's still IPv4, but in a clean slate way, and especially to be totally non-compatible with IPv4, so that we can sunset the current internet and move to IPv6 only, which was the right thing to do. So fundamentally, the prime success of the internet at the beginning was end-to-end, so peer-to-peer, because at that time you had just universities and they wanted to share with each other information and documents and so on and so forth. But in the meantime, the internet has been rather controlled by major companies, and it moved from an end-to-end into one to everyone. So it became centralized, and I think that's not the right direction that we should take. So with the IPv6, we can do peer-to-peer, and we see that already with very big applications like WhatsApp, although they are using the identifier as the phone number, and then it sees what is the current IP address that these devices are connected to. And then they connect them, and that's where you have peer-to-peer, and even it claims to do also cybersecurity in this case, encrypting voice and data between these parties. So that's really a very strong argument for IPv6 in order to do the end-to-end communication. So really we're at the beginning of a very big innovation, couple of decades in front of us, when the developers understand what's the use of end-to-end systems in the future instead of the centralized thing that we have today. So basically, most of you, in terms of IPv4, you don't have certain sovereignty on the internet. So you're just consumers, because you are behind a NAT, network address translation, which means that an IP address is shared among a lot of people. It's kind of the communist protocol instead of having an identifier for each one, which IPv6 is now promising. since the address space is in the trillion IP addresses. So it will last for at least another 100 years until a very smart African can come up with a new version. But currently you are in the luggage class. So only the servers do have routable IPv4 addresses. And those that are using IPv6 are basically in certain business class, but a lot of people don't even know it. And our approach is to push for IPv6 only for all kind of new applications. We see that already with 5G, with cloud computing, so Amazon is pushing for IPv6. And then IoT, and today IoT is not thanks to things, it's just the telecom IoT, which we have today. So we are trying to restore the end-to-end model. So in terms of deployment, so we have primarily a big push in Asia. So 60% of the IPv6 penetration is happening in Asia, with China and India. China with something like 850 million IPv6 users, and India with 450. So total Asia about 160 compared to 135 million in the US. It's very normal because Asia didn't have address space. I remember back in 2000, India had only about 200,000 IP addresses, and China had only about 8 million IPv4 addresses. So the call there was very easy. That's why we have pushed for this. And obviously now we're working on Africa. And I think people like Mukwam at Afrinic are doing a very good job in this area. And now we are pushing to create a task force or an IPv6 council in the various countries in Africa in order to do the same thing like we have done in the other countries. So if we look at the deployment of IPv6 on the website, it's very interesting that most of the African countries are using Cloudflare for their websites, so they get automatically IPv6, but out of the US, not from their own country ISPs, because the majority are still in the lower 10% V6 deployments. And this is thanks to the work that's, especially for Nigeria, as president of the IPv6 Council. And we had an event last year where we had the support from the Minister of Communication and from my friend Kashifu Inua Abdullahi. He's a top Cisco celebrated and certified engineer, and he's the president of the regulator of Afrinic. So I think you have, and I think your event is also having at least the Minister of Communication in your event, which is very important. So this is one of the rare countries where the top management of the government is promoting the modernization of the networks and talking about this digital transformation, which is for us basically the internet penetration in various sectors, be it enterprise and the governments. So if we look at what's a consultancy company called Rowan Berger, they have seen that the impact by the end of this decade of IPv6 on the various sectors is in the area of $10 trillion, which is about 10% of the world GDP. So primarily it will be touching enterprise, so manufacturing, but also all the other sectors, so finance, transportation, healthcare, education, and government, obviously. And this will be due to the edge networks, so IoT, edge network communications, so healthcare, food supply chain, and the likes. So quick words about the web generation. So Tim Berners-Lee has invented the web when he was at CERN, and that was the first killer application of the internet. And then Tim O'Reilly has forked basically Web 1 to Web 2.0. It was primarily for the new social media and especially the active or interactive video and streaming and so on and so forth, although not based on any standard. So the reaction of Tim Berners-Lee, as he was upset with that kind of hijacking of the web, started the Web 3.0, and it was focusing at the beginning on semantic web, But in the meantime, he's focusing on a very important topic called SOLID. SOLID stands for Social Linked Data. SOLID. SOLID is the response to the entire industry, which is taking all private data from people and making money out of it without giving anything back to people. So this is really an irresponsible type of approach to private data of the people. So with Solid, he will give each one the chance to put his data in what is called a pod. And then when you go to any website, they will ask you if you want to be paid by giving them your private data, whatever it is, $1, $2, or whatever, depending on the volume, so that you also can make money similar to what the influencers are doing today. So they're pushing for people to join them for whatever purpose, and they get advertising and so on. So you have hundreds, if not millions, of people making money out of just creating some kind of context, which could be very interesting to everyone. But in the future, I think we should promote that each one should be paid for his private data. And then with Dave Raggett, who is one of the prime officers of Tim Berners-Lee at W3C, we are working with him on what is called Web of Things, because the web is too heavy for IoT devices. This is still under work. Then we have what is called Web3, which is blockchain, started by Gavin Wood, who is the co-inventor of Ethereum. So this is more for, at the beginning for cryptocurrency like Ethereum, but it's not based on the standardization done by Tim Berners-Lee, in this case by W3C. But I think the most promising one is MetaNet, which looks at how to combine IPv6, Web 3.0, and BSV definition of blockchain for primarily the enterprise and the government. And I think that's a very important topic for us all in the future. So if I can move on to the other topics, obviously, I think you have heard about AI in the previous speech. So AI is going to be consuming a lot of backbone capacity. So we're promoting now, similar to the wireless world, when you have 3G, 4G, 5G, and now talking about 6G. The same thing is also getting now organized by a couple of organizations to which and my people from the IPv6 forum are promoting, what is the concept of Net 5G, and then the road even to next 6G for the backbone to move from the majority are on 200, 400 gigabits per second, especially for Africa. People are going to be using a lot of AI, especially with video. So video streaming today is in the area of 65 to 75% of the internet, which is massive. And AI is going to be doubling this every year. So it's going to hurt a lot of ISPs, to push that. So we're trying to, make a bit of balance between promoting the networking, but as well as the access protocols. The wireless generations, so I'll jump directly on 3G. So when 3G was in the design, most of the 3GPP people, especially the telecom operators, did not want to have the internet on 3G. They wanted to have only the ISPs or mobile operators to have their services. They offered them to their customers, so they didn't want to have the internet access. So I explained to them that at that time we already had about 500 million internet users, and these are the smartest people in the world. So if they want to access 3G, the wireless one, it will take a lot of time to make that success story. It took us about 6 months to convince them, and it worked out. So we promoted IPv6 at the beginning, but we found out that most of the vendors didn't have IPv6. So they went back to IPv4 and NAT. It's only with 5G that you have deployment with 6G. And we created through that the second killer application of the internet. And then, it moved on to 5G, and now we're combining Net5.5G over IPv6, and especially with 6G, which is in the making. So we're talking about, very high throughputs up to terabit per second. But the terahertz has certain restrictions. So it's not like 5G frequency, which can go through walls and windows and what have you. So terahertz, is blocked by the walls, and outside, if it rains, also the frequency or the spectrum is corrupted. So it will have more deployments in indoor companies. So for instance, data centers where you have spaghetti, the fiber. So you can get rid of the fiber optic cabling, and you can put just a terahertz modem. And this will be very important for supply chains and so on and so forth, or for manufacturing that use fiber optic. So they can just use, in this case, wireless fiber in order to change the manufacturing chain at any time. Instead of waiting for 6 months, you can do it within a week. Then we have the IoT generation. So there's a bit of fake news in this one. So Kevin Ashton, when he introduced RFID, which was also a big innovation, and during one conference back in 1990, he said that RFID is basically the Internet of Things. So instead of network of things, because RFID do not have even the capacity to have an IP address inside, let alone to be connected directly to the internet. But it created a buzz. A lot of people are talking about IoT, not knowing that it started with a fake protocol. And so IoT has been struggling in order to make, in this case, things to things. And this is where the promise in the third generation of IoT is to have a two-way IoT, in this case, things to things. And this will be one of the biggest instant data in the future, where AI is going to be basing its collection of data to give you something which is sensible. So decision-making coming out of IoT will be very important in the future. So despite the fact it was fake news, so it has pushed a lot of people to do primarily telecom IoT, which is very big, but it's not really the thing that IPv6 was designed for. Only one company in Japan called NTT Docomo has converted its telecom IoT into an IPv6 IoT for about 1.5 million IoT devices. So we're waiting for the publication on the outcome of this one. Then we have data generations. So I'm not going into detail on this one, but basically big IoT data. So the third one is going to be very more important than the big data itself. So big data is an old data, and big IoT data is going to be what I mentioned, the instant data that is going to be used. And we have a lot of people talking about data spaces. So this is for the industry when they have a lot of suppliers, so subcontractors, and they want to do just-in-time communication about, one manufacturer needs so much of suppliers to support him, and the other ones less, so to be able to time, in this case, the production. And this is an idea in Germany, so it's working there very well. It will take time in order to spread around the world. Then we have cloud computing. So people that think Africa didn't contribute, let me tell you that the inventors of cloud computing are two South Africans from Cape Town University. That's Pinkham and Van Biljon. And they invented cloud computing, and at that time it was called Elastic IP, because it didn't have many routing IP addresses. So they were just juggling between the IP addresses. And they were hired by Amazon back in 2005 and created the AWS. And in the meantime, they have left to create many other companies. So basically, so thanks to these two South Africans, or Africans, whatever I call it, we have one of the biggest innovations on the internet. Cloud computing will be very important for deployment of IPv6, especially in small and medium enterprises and any companies that are not really internet companies, but just only consumers of the internet, they don't have the knowledge on how to do that. So cloud computing can help them at the beginning and how to understand how it functions. So as of late, this lady, Alexandra from AWS, has added IPv6 to Amazon AWS for certain reasons. One, up to February, they had bought about $1 billion worth of IP4 addresses. And by introducing IPv6, now, since February, they're charging any customer who's using IPv4, to recollect the $1 billion they have spent on IPv4. And they think that by the end of this year, that $1 billion is coming back just by the implementation of IPv6, especially this lady from Hungary. So knowledge can come from any part of the world. And then AI, so there's a story behind it. This is nothing new, really. So at the beginning, Alan Turing has talked about machine intelligence. And in 1952, John McCarthy has coined the words artificial intelligence and discussed in this case, calling the father of AI. More importantly is when IBM, with its Deep Blue, defeated the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. That's basically when they have understood that, I think machines can also think as well, if not even better than some of the champions. I'll skip all this. So up to 2021, GPT-3 opened by OpenAI. And one of the secrets that not too many people know, the designer of OpenAI, or AI as such, is a lady from Albania, called Mira, and she was the CTO of the company. So it's not an American lady. So from Albania, nobody has expected this to happen. Had the chance to meet her and understand where she comes from. So congratulations to, similar to the previous lady from Hungary, so another one from Albania. So it's quite amazing that people from around the world, they go to the US and do wonderful things. So generations, for the time being, nothing can beat the thinking brain. But, with AI, first generations, so it's primarily pattern-based, logic and rules and machines learning. So which is implemented in computers today and for translations and spam filters and self-driving cars. And AI 2.0, it's zillions. So primarily video is going to be very important. This is what I was mentioning about the backbone is going to be hit dramatically because basically media, so be it films or whatever. So with AI, you can produce videos fast. And videos production is very difficult for a lot of people. That's why we are not really, it's one of the press and some specialists. But tomorrow, or even today, using whatever famous AI applications, you can produce your own video. You just have to write the text and tell it produce a video. And you will be seeing that things like, TikTok and so on, are going to boom. You have thousands of these happening. Then I'm afraid of the third generation, which is when we achieve the thinking machines, which is like thinking brains. They're for sure going to be as smart as us, but faster. So it's like inviting aliens from another planet to come and visit us, and we have to create total things, to control these guys. So governance, ethics, and many issues that we don't yet comprehend. So already today we see the great benefits of AI, but also the great destruction you can do with this. This is very normal for any new technology. We just have to be smart. Not too quickly to regulate them, but to give it some time to see how it functions, whether people are using for the good purpose or for the bad purpose. And then you know how you could put restriction on these things. So don't hurry to block AI that will be not intelligent as such. Finally, the cybersecurity, which is really a very important topic. And I think a lot is happening in this area, but not too many people talk about it. Because first of all, they don't know how to handle it. And second, you will lose trust if your bank says it has been hacked. So they prefer to pay ransomware. But it's already started in ARPANET back in the 60s and 70s, primarily 70s. So the first kind of just a prank. Yeah, so Bob Thomas sent a prank called Creeper on ARPANET. And then Ray Tomlinson created the first antivirus. And Ray Tomlinson is the inventor of email. And on his typewriter, he had the @ sign on it, which was the only single thing that he has used, in this case for email, to split the name and the server behind it, which is the greatest invention. And he invented also the mouse that has been taken only by Apple at that time, to introduce it, to facilitate many things. So in the meantime, we're using just our fingers on the screen to get these things done. But it takes a lot of effort to do that in the internet. So if you start with the crime espionage introduced by Marcus Harris, and the Russian cyber power. And then you have the Morris war. So I'm just taking the big ones. So there are multiple of these. But this one went very viral. It started by Robert Morris himself. And in the meantime, hacking is big business. So ransomware, malware, nation states attacks, and similar. Finally, the peer-to-peer applications is really the essence of the internet at the beginning. And we have killed many of these things. So the biggest peer-to-peer application is today WhatsApp. Because WhatsApp, it uses the identifier, the phone numbers as an identifier, as I mentioned earlier on, but then it looks at the IP address with IP4 and IPv6 and the source and destination and connect these two. That's peer-to-peer. Then in this case, you can do encryption. Okay, so unless the encryption is controlled by a single company, whether it is in the US or Europe and so on, so government can ask that encryption to be open for a specific case. So in the future, I would expect they will have more peer-to-peer applications based on IPv6 for all kind of purpose. And the biggest killer application, which has been turned from Satoshi Nakamoto from non-blockchain solution into a crypto money, which is now in the area of $2 trillion, which is quite a lot of money. But the problem with it is some people are making money and the rest is losing. So it can be good for the world. And as I mentioned earlier on, the important thing is really to use blockchain for the enterprise government. And there's, we have lack of security in the internet, especially for governments and enterprise. I know it's very complex to deploy blockchain, but I've been working on it for the last 3 to 4 years.
Hello, Professor.
And you see, very good concepts that can be used, to implement it. Primarily, you have to verify the source. Then you have to create a story, the history of the data, just by simple timestamping, and then make the data immutable, which means nobody can change the data.
I have to.
This would be fundamental for AI, and I have finished them. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. This was interesting. So for all the questions you've had during Professor Latif's session, I'd like us to just note it down. The ushers will come around, take it, and then we'll have a response to you on the social media. Thank you so much for your session, sir. We really appreciate your time, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have other panelists online waiting to join the session. Thank you so much, sir. So I'd like us to welcome the next session, which is called Training the Next Generation of AI Thinkers in Africa. So what I see here is the AI talent is scarce everywhere, but in Africa, the gap is even wider. Universities are struggling to keep up, and young people are often trained only to use tools and not to create them. So this conversation is how about we're going to teach the next generation, this generation, how to think about this growth that is coming and not miss out on the wave. So moderating this session is Nosike Nwegene, the media advisor on startup, ecosystems, and digital policy. Hello, sir. Please, you're welcome. Let's have a round of applause for him. And virtually, we have Mr. Paul Ojo, the founder for Project Connect. Mr. Paul, are you on? And secondly, we have Olushola Ajayi, who is a principal consultant at Stratagem Africa. Is here with us and is going to be taking us on a very interesting journey. Hello, Mr. Shola. You're welcome. Welcome, sir. Round of applause, please. Thank you. And third on that list is Lusanda Omelo, the founding managing director for Find AI for that. Is she here? Are we here? Hi, Lusanda.
Hello, good day. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You're welcome.
Great.
Good morning to
Thank you.
Great. And fourth on the list is Boluwaji Fagwaro. You were here yesterday with your awesome presentation. Hello, sir. Let's give me a round of applause, please. Okay, do we have Chukwemeka Okafor? Chukwemeka Okafor, you're welcome. Chukwemeka Okafor is the Chief Executive Officer at Pastex. You're welcome, Chukwemeka. Round of applause, please. Okay, Mr. Samuel Esogbu. Is he joining us virtually? Okay, so I'll hand over the mic to our moderator Nosike and let him take us on a very interesting journey.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Special greetings to the panelists, those that are here physically, and Lusanda. Hi, Lusanda, and the rest of the panelists that are here virtually as well. So, obviously, we are all aware of the shifting landscape as far as AI is concerned. You all agree with me that AI is the single largest leap in our generation, possibly in world history, as far as innovation is concerned. It has reshaped every part of our lives in ways we both know and don't know. Some interesting, statistics or data points here. Obviously, we all know that Africa is the youngest population. 60% of our population is 60% of the world's population under 25 is African. So we are the youngest population. And interestingly enough, only 1.7% of global AI research comes from Africa. 1.7%, right? Which is, you allow me to say, minuscule. We're here today to discuss primarily or more broadly how we ensure that Africa is not left behind in the world's AI journey and grow our sovereign intelligence, which is Africa's ability or capacity to grow and govern AI on our own terms and not be left behind in the world's AI journey. So my co-panelists, welcome, and looking forward to a rich conversation with everyone. I will start possibly from Mr. Shola and then take it all the way down with my first question, which is, what is the single biggest failure point as far as Africa's AI talent? We all know that our current systems, a lot of us are exposed to local education where we are taught to use tools rather than build them, right? You're taught to even perhaps, understand an app inside out, but there's a failure to communicate critical thinking that allows us understand the underlying AI which builds these tools. So, this is for the panelists, but I think I'll start with Mr. Shola. What is the single biggest failure point as far as Africa's AI talent is concerned?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, everybody. I think fundamentally we should first look at the kind of interactions we have and therefore work backwards to the issues that may have led to this. On the first and simplistic level of interaction with AI is AI usage, where you just use AI pretty much like a dictionary or like Google. You have a question, you throw it into it, it gives you answers, which means that you've limited the fundamental thought processes to your own brain and mind. At a higher level is where you have the AI thinker. An AI thinker is somebody who is what I would like to call a systems integrator, who has been able to integrate his or her own capacity to think and integrated it with the AI's capabilities. It means such a person knows what AI can do. and fundamentally has imbibed it into their own productive engineering design as they think. Fundamentally, they've taken AI for granted. They know what AI can do. They've absorbed the fact that AI can answer certain questions and can deliver certain solutions. And they take those solutions for granted in designing their solutions or providing answers. The fundamental challenge, specifically to your question, is the design of our education system. We have an education system that teaches us to find answers. So, yes, Google is good if all you're looking for is answers. Your textbook is good if all you're looking for is answers. But we have entered a world in which what we are looking for now are questions, because the answers are everywhere present. All the answers you're looking for has been captured in the systems. You have specialist AI engines and AI solutions tools. The answers are in the system. But the question is, can we relate our challenges, our situations, our experiences, can we relate them in context and actually define the questions we want if the answers are already existing? So what is the question? Is what we are looking for. And that's not what our systems have trained us to do.
So, Boluwaji, did I get that right? Yeah, great. Would you say you agree with Mr. Shola when he says that our education design is the single largest failure point as far as AI talent is concerned?
Oh yeah, I think it's right, and I actually support that. Go with that. As far as I'm concerned, okay, I'll start with this. Last week, I think I was going through the internet last week. Then I don't know how true it is actually. I would apologize if I'm wrong, and then please kindly correct me. I saw somewhere that mathematics will not be made compulsorily available anymore for probably commercial students or art students. So for their
yes,
their
I saw that
Y
on the
or their O.
news. Yes.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. So I think that's actually a very to me, I would apologize again if I'm going to say this. To me, it's a very bad move. Actually, we are so being particular about adoption of AI in Africa, stuff like that, and then we tend to forget that AI basically is built on mathematics, pure logic. Everything that has to do with artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, anything you could think of. Exactly, everything is built on mathematics. And if you're going to take this mathematics away from people, so you're more like you're just shifting it just to the science student alone. I was actually an art student when I was in secondary school. Even when I was in the university for my first for my BSc, I was still more of the art side. Then after for my first MSc, I had to like switch. I had to like go back again to start solving mathematics. Because when I was in school, I was a bit scared of mathematics because the way they usually present it to us in classes then, it was actually very, very, I wouldn't say horrible, but something close to that. So I had to like go back on my own to start dealing with mathematics, solving mathematics, equations, doing stuff like that. When I first, the first time I built my AI model, basically it was actually on paper. My linear regression, stuff like that. These things are built on pure mathematics, pure logic. So why would you want to take this thing away? So again, in support to what he said, our educational system is actually is going the other way around, because the decisions they make or we make, it's has a very long-term effect, which is negative on everything we want to do, especially the adoption of artificial intelligence.
All right. Mr. Chukwemeka, over to you. I guess, just to follow up from what everyone has said, and Lusanda, if you can hear us, we're coming to you in just a second, please. The question is, how do we rethink education here? How do we rethink it? Because there's so many moving parts. There's the education policy. So, I mean, this is an African conversation. So our ministries of education, we have the teachers, we have the students, we have the parents, right? And we have the, private sector in this context, the tech ecosystems, which either build or distribute this technology that require the talent and also distribute this to consumers. We have all these moving parts, right? And it does seem to me like everyone is involved in this. So from your point of view, how do we rethink education? And if Lusanda can hear me, I will bring this question right to your doorstep as well to get a broader Pan-African view.
Right. So I sort of missed a bit of your question, but there's a point that's quite interesting that my colleague picked up on with regards to, I'm not sure which country he's referring to or article he's referring to, with regards to mathematics not being made compulsory anymore, right? So fair enough. In building these applications, there is a high need for mathematics. But I would like to point him to two different audiences that AI will also be serving, right? We've got the builders, right? So he seems to be referring to those that are building these large language models. And those are the guys that are using and may need to have mathematics in order to be able to build these capabilities. And then we've got a second side that I would like to touch on, and I didn't hear my colleague touch on, is the different audience that is not building, but is consuming these applications in order to be able to serve society in one way or the other. And this is the bigger pool of people that have access to these applications that already exist, right? Which then allow somebody like myself, for an example, who doesn't understand mathematics, or I don't have an affinity for mathematics, to be able to come up with mathematical solutions using AI. So I think in our conversation and talking about education and learning, we shouldn't forget the fact that AI is moving, and I think this conversation actually speaks to that AI is moving towards a more personalized kind of knowledge, a personalized kind of knowledge rather than a more classroom kind of knowledge. And we're already seeing this, the ability to be able to upload textbooks in various AI tools and get a different kind of education as well, using these AI tools. You are able to create flashcards using these AI tools. You are able to create audio if you're a person that prefers to listen to education, and various other methods that AI is able to assist the different kinds of people. So I think in our conversation on learning and education, let's not divorce ourselves from addressing the fact that AI is becoming very personalized. Right? We know ChatGPT is now coming up, is going to be including advertising, which is going to be hyper personalization. So there's a few moving parts that I would like for us to also consider as we speak about training and education, and personalization being one of them, to meet the different kinds of users and how we consume education.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lusanda. I'll just shift it to Chukwemeka now, right? From your perspective, from where you're standing, and integrating what Lusanda has just shared, how do you see us rethinking education here? How Africans rethink education as we try to catch up in terms of AI talent?
Okay. So my own thoughts is going to be a bit different, and this is based on my own experience implementing.
Of course.
Implementing World Bank projects across tertiary institutions. So something I need to make very clear is that the traditional model of education is not sufficient enough. And so what I will propose in reimagining education is a networked ecosystem such that we have different tiers. So for instance, the university has a role to play, such that they're focused on theoretical and foundational knowledge. You have the technical institutions, something like, I mean, by the polytechnics, the monotechnics, and this thing, that focus on practical skills. Then you also have where you come to government, basically policy and funding. So what my co-panelist was referring to was a policy change, but I'm glad that they reversed it. So you also have the industry-led labs where they are focused on practical solutions, AI solutions. And there are so many forms of training in these areas. So in that area, we need to also reimagine education. And this is very, very important because when you look at the tertiary education in Nigeria, you see it takes 3 to 5 years, the curriculum. However, AI technology, the models or the learning curves changes every month. So it's very, very important that we need to train, and teachers are the multiplier effect. So if you're going to create talent at scale, education is very, very key. And when you train a teacher, you have access to 1,000 students. So it's very, very important that maybe monthly we have this training, capacity building for teachers. Then there's also a need in terms of education to address the infrastructure and access barrier. What I mean by infrastructure and access barrier, if you look at the sub-Saharan part of Africa, we have less than 40% accessing the internet. And when I mean infrastructure, it's not just about internet connectivity. We're talking about computing power. Because in the tertiary institution where researches are done, you need access to computing. More importantly, you also need access to like models that are in indigenous languages. 0.02% of the models are in
African languages, yes.
So that's a challenge because we need to start building products. The goal here is not about AI literacy, but more about AI fluency. Because once we attain AI fluency, then that's when we can be talking about sovereignty. Thank you.
Yes, first of all, I think it's really great key points there that you mentioned AI fluency. That literally is the first step, and we must get to that. Bolu, I would like to ask, and then possibly Mr. Shola as well. What are when and piggybacking on his comment on AI fluency, when we say AI talent, who are you thinking of? What skill sets are we looking for at within the reasonable confines of being African, understanding infrastructure issues, education policy issues, all the limitations that stop us from competing with, say, Beijing or Silicon Valley? So what are the skill sets? What profile do you imagine when you think AI talent in Africa?
Okay, to start with, I would like to address what my co-panelist just said the other time about AI being an ecosystem. In support of that, actually, we should consider AI as an ecosystem. It's not just the programming side. Not everyone will sit down in front of a laptop or a computer all day, maybe like myself, writing codes or doing stuff. Not everybody will pick a pen up, writing mathematics, calculus all day. It's actually an ecosystem. You have the data side, you have the data resourcing side, you have the policy side, just like you said. You have so many sides of AI. All this contributes to the talent, which we are actually saying. It's not just the person sitting in front of the computer building stuff. It's like so vast and so wide. So there are so many sides contributing to it. So again, to reiterate on what you just said again concerning AI talent, to me, I would like to step in from the programming side because that's the side where I'm from actually. So I can't really speak on maybe the policy side because I'm not from that field. So from the for the programming side, which is the AI talent I'm going to talk about, to start with, honestly, it is basically the mathematics. I'll always be particular about it. As a young guy, I was very, very scared of mathematics, very, very, very poor with mathematics. So I had to like go back on my own to start doing these things, start writing mathematics with pen, everything, building projects with pen, basically with pen. So it that actually developed me to be able to like think ahead, to be able to build things. So to myself or to probably person from my field, which is the programming side, I would address that mathematics is actually what you'll be looking for in to say somebody's talented or to say somebody can actually build an AI model. You have to be mathematically smart. That is just it.
So basically, you're speaking from So we're addressing a large ecosystem now, and you're speaking from the core builder side.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you say the AI when you think AI talent, the profile you're thinking is math based.
Yes,
If
exactly.
foundations in maths, and then obviously building, right? Just
Yes.
for clarity.
Yes, exactly. To just add to it, if you check online to probably see some of these companies or some of these industries looking forward to employing people, basically the only thing, most of the things they will require as their requirement is usually a mathematics degree. If you check it very well, they are
Yeah.
not asking you to probably be from other fields. They just need you to be from a mathematical field. So not necessarily programming side, because programming is just the way of instructing your computer to do stuff. So that means there's an intent that comes first, which is the mathematics side of it, which is the logical side of it. So programming is something you learn over time. Programming is just like language, just like your English language. It's something I would learn to speak, learn to understand over time. The more I speak it, the more I use it. Now let's see, if I'm learning to speak Spanish now, it will probably take me a few years to understand Spanish to be able to speak fluently, right? Now, if my first year, I'll probably be able to say come, go in Spanish, stuff like that. Then probably the third year, the fourth year, I might probably be able to say some proverbs in Spanish, which means over time, the more you speak, the more you engage yourself
course,
with that language,
naturally,
the more you
naturally.
understand. That's just programming side of it.
Yeah.
Not all industries, they don't even require you to be fluent in Python, to be fluent in R, or to be fluent in any programming language. They just need the intent, which is actually the mathematics side of it.
Yeah.
So if you check online, see most of these jobs, they're always requiring for mathematics degree, stuff like that, which
Yeah.
is from the programming side, just like I said. I believe to say somebody, to capture the word talent from the programming side, it has to do with the logical side of it.
All
which
right,
is
thank you,
mathematics.
Mr. Shola. Additions?
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm an engineer, so when I hear you talk about maths, I'm very glad. It gives me some level of satisfaction to see that you can complete your education and go back to maths. Maths is just a language, it's a way of seeing and understanding the world. It is not meant to be hard. But enough said about maths and how the challenges of it. I think for AI talent, it's very, very important that we look at it from 3 dimensions. First is the awareness and basic usage, which I believe is what a lot of us are at right now, which is really fundamentally at just the beginning of it. If we roll our mind back to internet penetration in Nigeria right now, I'm not sure what the exact figure is, but I'm not sure if we've crossed 60%. Are we?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I wouldn't say so.
So, but that's a technology that is what, 20 years old now? So if 20 years after, internet penetration is still sub 50, sub 60% in Nigeria, what are we going to do with AI? I think the first thing we need to do is recognize that we must be part of the builders of the system. The internet infrastructure was built abroad. We are 20 years after still trying to grapple and understand it. If we allow AI be built and handed to us, I bet in another 50 years we'll still be struggling. We must enter into the game.
Very sound argument, by the
We
way.
must throw our heart into the game. And guess what? At least we have infrastructure. We understand, those of us who know right now, understand that we can get into this game. There's an opportunity for us to extend the boundaries of AI knowledge. Whatever you have in the system was trained into the system. Yes, you can have some level of deductive reasoning, but if you do not have the seminal information about our systems, our culture, our history, we'll end up reading the history and the system integrated knowledge of other cultures. Remember, every time you train a system, you are a part of you goes into it. So what are we going to do? Are we going to leave it to the Caucasian? We leave it to the white man to build the systems that we will use, that our children and grandchildren will build their knowledge on. So beyond just usage, we must actively, right now, begin to invest resources and talent in the building of our own. I think LLMs, do we have any built in Nigeria yet so far?
Yeah, there are a couple that are underground, but nothing tangible that I can immediately recall. Yes.
Okay, some efforts are going on in this. We should devote resources, financial resources at state level. It's as important as the budget we put for security.
Agreed.
Otherwise, we would ultimately be handing all our servers. I'm not sure how many servers, how many systems integrators we have in Nigeria right now.
Yes,
So whoever built the servers you are using, you are putting all your serious secrets on ultimately has access to them. It's important that we take AI seriously. We are on the ground floor, fundamentally. A lot of work is still be done. But by now, I expect that AI has been introduced into our tertiary academic curriculum, our parish school curriculum, and even nursery school, because this is my child. I have a 1-year-old child who keeps going to the TV and he tries to flick the screen. Why? Because he's a digital device native.
Yes.
He can't understand why the screen on the TV is not flicking. And in his mind, he's thinking this thing is broken. Because every other device he sees flicks, he moves, he responds to his touch. We are at that point with AI. We can build, we can catch up, we can overtake, and we can make impact. The best professors in the world in most universities, you have Africa, particularly Nigerians, actively represented. AI should not be any different.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Shola. Thank you. No, you can hold the microphone. Round of applause for that, everyone. Thank you. Luciana, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. I love a word that one of my colleagues used, and that is ecosystem. You know, we are finding ourselves in an environment where we are pushed to become an ecosystem. And I love the fact that I'm speaking to engineers and people within the education system. I come mostly from the business side and AI implementation. And I think as we are having these conversations, I'm hearing how one part of the ecosystem, how they need each other. You know, it's the opportunity for us to teach the next generation to be critical thinkers, to be able to interpret outcomes, and basically use AIs to be able to apply solutions in real context, right? Yeah. We have our own African challenges that can be resolved by using AI. And I don't think that this will happen with us building in silos, but rather a consolidation of industry, of lawmakers, as well as education. And not only that, the full spectrum to say, once these students are graduated and are literate, are AI literate, is the workspace and the work environment ready to receive them? What do job descriptions of the future look like? You know, what kind of output is the workspace expecting of our students? And I think it will start from grassroots levels at school. I do know a few schools in South Africa and Africa actually introducing AI as part of the curriculum. And some of these things are definitely going to need to be also a partnership between a private as well as government for us to be able to forge forward. So definitely, I love the word ecosystem, and it makes sense to this conversation.
Awesome. Quick one, Lucinda, if you can still hear me. Just a question for you, which I will cascade to the rest of the panel, right? And interesting that we're talking about curriculum and students and schools and entry level young people who should have the skill sets we're looking out for. If teachers are like one of our panelists says, key multipliers, how do we prep them to obviously lead the effort that results in many more, like a co-panelist said, one teacher, 1,000 students, right? That's quite the skill. How do we prep this one teacher, 500 teachers, 1,000 teachers? What do we need to do to get them to the level where their knowledge is multiplied in a way that benefits Africa's AI journey?
Right. For that to even begin, in my view, is for us needing to transform to say, what does our education need to look like? When you start with an AI strategy, we need to start with the final output. What is our objective and what do we want this to look like, right? And I also want to clarify, and perhaps my colleagues can comment on this, is that we are actually not left behind. AI is it's a new technology. It's an ever-changing technology where we are finding ways to say, what are we going to do about this technology? So it is a new technology. So we are not left behind. It is something that is progressive. What I've seen being done by these big LLMs, like the OpenAIs, like the Googles of this world, is availability of resources that are aimed to train individuals, educators, as well as business people to equip them for this technology. So that simply tells me that there is a skills shortage that we're currently facing, and so this is not unique to Africa. So so the same route will need to be taken when it comes to our educators, because they are the multipliers. And we also need to understand that because AI is such a changing technology, this is basically not going to be an overnight thing. This is a muscle that needs to be built. There's certain fundamentals that we get to understand and learn about AI. And as we start using AI, we are able to then come up with these contexts to say, right, here are opportunities that I can see, and here are the different AI tools that I can use to assist my students, and here's the kind of students that I have, and so on. So perhaps teachers are not only going to be the only multipliers in the traditional way. There's various ways because of availability of AI tools. I've worked with hundreds, close to thousands of AI tools, which are aimed at obviously helping us to be better efficient. So there's various AI tools where then teachers themselves can share how does multiplication when it comes to a classroom look like. They will need, again, to be part of this ecosystem to perhaps be the drivers of how do we multiply when it comes to knowledge sharing as well as education.
Thank you. Chukwemeka, thoughts on teachers as multipliers and how we can prep them or build capacity in that area so that we can reach more young people quicker. Thoughts? I mean, you have on the ground knowledge, and your insights will be useful here.
Okay, so I think my own thoughts are basically going to be, if I'm a teacher and you're selecting me to come on a program to train me on AI, like, why is it important to me? So yes, I think the first thing is for us to have like a national policy on, okay, we want to build capacity for teachers. Then you have to also try and design it in such a way that the teachers see what it is, that what is in it for them. So for me, part of what needs to be done is to ensure that, like, that is job related. It's not just like a one-off workshop. It's something that is continuous. As my co-panelist rightly said, AI keeps changing. So if the teachers are continually trained or they see the need for personal development, it spurs them. Another thing that's very important is also to create AI certification models, such that, I take this level, just like the way you have in CCNA, in Cisco, networking and this thing. If we can adopt such model in AI, it's something that is also going to be very, very helpful. Then, again, creating content, Africa-related content, having a repository, so that it's easy for them to self-learning. So the world is going, the future of works now is moving in such a way that people are encouraged to learn online, remotely, self-paced. So if we can have the right repositories of information for them to learn on their own, it becomes much, much easy for them to, to keep equipping themselves such that they have the enough capacity to transfer. But more importantly, there needs to be a change in mindset, because the people you're training, you're not training them to be consumers. Because part of the problem with the AI talent is, you have the consumers and the consumer
Builders.
mentality and the builders, or something I'll call the creation mentality. So here we train people on how to prompt ChatGPT
Yes.
or prompt AI. There's a need when we're training the trainers, and that brings me to what the co-panelists say. What's the goal? The goal here is not on how to prompt ChatGPT, but on how to create our own LLMs, on how to create our own AI technologies or AI products. So, and finally on this, something that I also want to this is that there's this pyramid model that we should also consider when training. People fit in different categories. So you have the basic literacy level, which is the base of the pyramid, where we can train a whole lot of people, just like the way ALS does it, train a lot of people at that level. Then you have those who are job related, people who are in the middle cadre. These are the people that are going to build the AI products. And you now have the apex, where you have the researchers and the innovators. So if we have that model, it's very, very easy for us to train trainers who can go out there to train other trainers, and there we have the multiplier effect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Brilliant additions all around. I hope the audience is benefiting from these insights. I wanted to ask a question. It does seem that we keep coming back to education policy. We come back to education policy a lot. A lot of the panelists, when making their arguments, come back to the mindset and how, kind of like an AI strategy and how we integrate AI into what we teach our kids and the young ones. In a sentence or in a minute or less for every panelist, please, what is the easiest way to get education policy to support AI talent? In a minute or less, please. We'll start from Lusanda, and then just a minute or less, and then we'll go down through the rest of the co-panelists. Lusanda, please.
I'm sorry, I missed your question. Your question there. Can you please repeat it?
Yeah, sure. I was just asking that a lot of our conversations take us back to education policy. So in just about a minute or less, could you speak to what the best way is to get education policy on the side of building the AI talent to close the global gap, with Africa? Getting education
Okay, great.
policy
I
on our
think
side,
one.
yes. Oh, please go ahead.
Can you
Sorry.
hear me still?
Yes, we do hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Right. Once we start speaking about policy, then we are now moving to a territory where we say that the private sector is not able to do this on our own. Right. There will need to be a partnership with government, definitely, because they lead with policy when it comes to education and so forth. But this doesn't stop us as business people to implement a policy within our work environment and to start to say, let's start working around with AI and saying, what is it? I like what my previous colleague said, playing around with AI instead of quickly dismissing AI, for an example, but to play around with it to say, how is it helping us as a society, right? We need to create policies within a work environment where AI is not seen as cheating, but more as a tool that will help us as businesses to move forward, right?
Yeah.
It is more a tool. It will help us as a business and then create these policies around us. There's various factors, obviously, to consider as businesses, such as privacy. My colleague spoke about a pyramid, which I absolutely love, which in my mind speaks to the various gradings of accessibility and education of where each and every employee perhaps is when it comes to understanding, understanding AI and the use of AI. So definitely it's a partnership thing within a business environment as well as at a bigger scale with in partnership with government.
All right, Mr. Shola. Education policy, AI talent, Africa.
Thank you very much for the question. I think first and foremost, there is a need by governments in Africa to recognize that the problem we are facing has not changed. It has not evolved. The children you do not train today who are unable to earn living wages and participate economically in the society tomorrow will end up becoming the militants and the criminals of tomorrow. So it becomes, I see every time I hear education, I hear security. It's a security matter. It's a national security matter. It's a regional security matter. To fill the gap of necessity, I think the kind of people who appoint as ministers, people in charge of the education policies themselves need to be people who are not just AI aware. They need to be people who are promoters of AI adoption. So we need to take a second look at how we appoint people. Today, I think one of the last Nobel Prize was for chemistry, and the person that won it was not a chemist. It was an IT person. So AI gives you the capacity to push boundaries beyond your traditional zones. So, but practically, what can we do today? Mass education, mass certification, and the enforcement of the use of AI tools in education, in delivering of education. What that brings to mind are significant and myriad of questions, because how can you get a teacher who doesn't have a digital, a smart device to begin to contemplate what AI can do and should do for them? But the reality is this: the future is here upon us. Amazon has had its biggest layoff of staff this week. Why? Because AI is taking all the jobs. So we are basically today training and raising children who will not find jobs tomorrow. There is a matter of urgency. It is a matter of national security. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shola. Bulu, same question, quickly, 1 minute, please. Just as we round up.
Okay.
Education policy, how do we best integrate or make education policy favorable for us to close the gap and solve this AI talent shortage Africa has?
Okay, as for me, actually, I would like to step in from a research point of view to introduce artificial intelligence to classes or to schools. Basically, we have to adopt theories, basically, which means we have to check what other countries have done, what other continents have done, what did they do, what are the things they did, what were the things they got wrong. Now, what I mean by theories is this: we have two wide theories. Basically, we have the connectivist approach, and then we have the constructivist approach. Basically, what the constructivist approach basically is all about is just being person-centered approach, in the sense that if you have issues learning biology, if you have issues with chemistry topics, you could prompt AI or you could learn from AI to probably channel the way it's going to teach you to your own basic level of understanding, in the sense that if your own level of intelligence or your own level of brilliance is like probably like a 2-year-old child, these things will be able to teach you just like a 2-year-old child. I won't teach you way above your league. And then we have the connectivist approach, which means knowledge is everywhere. Knowledge is outside there. Knowledge is there. So it connects you basically to everything around you. For China, they used the collectivist approach, which is actually working for them. You could learn everything from everywhere. For US, they used the constructivist approach, which is actually working for them. As for us in Nigeria or for Africa at large, we are still a bit behind. These are the things we have to adopt, learn from them. What are the things they did? What were the things they did wrong? Let's learn from these things so we can make use of this approach of these theories or frameworks And then talking of frameworks again, we have narrow ways in which these things can be done. For instance, I would mention the child-directed AI. We have the child collaborating AI, and then we have the child empowered AI. Basically, what the child directed AI is all about is it teaches you. AI teaches you everything. Basically, AI is the one leading you to do everything. So, which is probably very dogmatic in nature. It makes you lazy because you don't even know anything about it. It's just to give you the things to do. If you prompt ChatGPT now or Grok or any LLM model you have on your phone, it's probably going to like lead you to do the things you want to do because it learns from the patterns of the information it's getting from you. It could read and understand that this person doesn't even have any knowledge about these things it's asking me. And then we have the collaborating AI, which works with you hand in hand. That one is a bit fair because in the sense that you can work together hand in hand. But at the same time, again, this makes you depend on AI because it's more like a colleague, like a partner. So if you don't see your partner, you can't work effectively. And then you have the other one again, which is more like the child empowered AI. This one makes you lead the AI. It's more like you're the leader. This also has a disadvantage again if you're going to think about it because in the sense that not every child, not every student is very proactive. So it means you have to be the one to lead the AI. But so you just have to see what works for you, what works for us as an African, as an African continent.
That's what I'm taking from this is that we can't do a copy and paste.
Exactly.
Look at all the leading players.
See the mistakes.
Look at the mistakes. Look at what's worked and see how we adapt it for ourselves. Do you believe? Does anyone here believe that the government is even looking in this direction, or most importantly, the education-facing MDAs? Do you think that they are looking in this direction at all? And what would we take for them to look in this direction?
Well, I don't think they are looking in this direction because if you're going to introduce artificial intelligence to schools, to children, to students, to universities, without attaching it to your framework, without attaching it to theory, it's bound to fail.
Yeah.
Because you have to see the things people are doing, things the people are doing wrong, stuff like that. You have to learn from them, learn from people who has gone beyond yours, like America, China, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's bound to fail if you're not going to check these frameworks. And then checking these frameworks or these theories again, you have to check the advantages of each framework, each theories, check the disadvantages, check the benefits, check everything. So to me, personally, if I should be the president of Nigeria today, I'll probably just pitch the constructivist approach, basically.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. We have a few fellowships that are quite known on the continent scale. Deep Learning in Daba, bringing it to Nigeria, Data Science Nigeria, AI for Dev. All of these are already cultivating AI leaders. There are different organizations, initiatives pushing in their own little corners, capacity improvement on the AI front, and their work is commendable, which is why I'm mentioning them. But they are working in isolation. Piggyback or segueing from the conversation on education policy, how do we move from these isolated fellowships to a continent-wide pipeline? I can repeat the question, but for Mr. Shola, this is for you, and then we'll take it to Lusanda, and then we'll have our final question for the panel. So once again, Deep Learning in Daba, Data Science Nigeria, AI for Dev. These are, like I said, notable initiatives within the AI space, doing their work independently of each other, right? These fellowships, like I said, probably have, or very likely to have successes. But how do we move from these isolated fellowships to a continent-wide pipeline? I know some of your answer is going to come back to government, right? But, how do you even see us? And Lusanda, we're coming to you next with this as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, a lot lies in the hands of the government. And you mentioned not Nigeria, not West Africa, you mentioned continent-wide. It's important when you say continent-wide, we need to draw some context. I have some data for West Africa. West Africa right now has about 250 million youths. If the trend we are seeing in the West pervades, and it will, because a lot of our youths today are also working at remote in the gig economy for Amazon, for Google, and the likes of them. AI is going to be taking some of those jobs. What are they going to be doing? The government is looking at a situation. It's not even about education anymore. I preach it again. It's about security. you're going to be having very smart, very intelligent people who are equipped with skill and tool to either add and grow this economy or break it down. You are seeing cybersecurity is a major challenge. If I have skills and I cannot use that skill to add, to create jobs for myself and create income for myself, I might be tempted to use it any other way just to ensure that I survive. So it's a security matter. I think the government needs to take a look at it as a security matter from the ECOWAS perspective, as well from the African Union perspective. Otherwise, we are going to go back to the dark ages. And what the tools of colonization will not be ships, will not be guns, will not be mirrors anymore. It is just technology. It is artificial intelligence. So what can you do? Prioritize and put the right people in places. Put the technology man, a person who has the vision, who can understand it. Put them in charge of education. Do we have data centers in Nigeria? How many do we have in West Africa? How many do we have in Africa? The game is not just even about the skill anymore. It's becoming about power. Because the data centers must be powered. In Nigeria that does not have sufficient power to power lights, just basic needs, how are we going to power data centers? We have yet to come to the table. This, on my part, is my approach to it, is my concern, and I think everybody who can amplify this to the right quarters should, in Nigeria, in West Africa, and in Africa as a whole.
Thank you. Lusanda, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. So I think personally that Africa is full of brilliant leaders. We're full of brilliant builders as well as creative problem-solving capabilities. But I think that systematic change is needed where there is a requirement for a bit of coordination for us to be able to work together globally. So what's happening at the moment is that we've got individual brilliance, right? What we need to move to is perhaps shared infrastructure where we all learn together from what is being brought to the table by our fellow, colleagues. We also need to share personal success stories. I think that is very important for us to share these success stories, perhaps have regional playbooks. I know Kenya is doing very well when it comes to AI in Africa. We also need to be able to build repeatable models, right? Which will help us to move forward and to create like a blueprint or a framework that will be usable for various continents within their context. And I think another one we need to work on as Africans is basically competing. What's happening now is we're competing for visibility. Who's doing it the best? What we need to do is start networking of resources and collaboration pipelines that are not only building in silos, but to build this ecosystem. I clearly like that word that we've spoken about. And then we also need to share our short-term wins. You know, there are great initiatives that are currently happening in Africa, different parts of Africa that are absolutely brilliant, which we need to share these wins. What are they doing that we can also do? And these will help us to be better effective in the long term. So fortunately or unfortunately, the private sector will be the leaders when it comes to these initiatives, because there is immediate decision-making that we can make as private sectors. We are immediately able to say, right, here's what's working, here's what's not working. So in that way, we will lead, right? But then we obviously cannot rely on UN policy forever. It's we've got to come together, and we've got to come together to be able to create policies that conducive for the regions that we live in. I will not even start talking about how much of a complexity it becomes as Africans to be able to take European solutions and plug them into Africa, which is Europe is definitely not our context, but obviously a platform or a region which we can learn from. So basically, these I don't think we should wait for government. I think as things have been happening, let's push forward. But I think as business leaders, let's continue to put the pressure on government. As my colleague has said, that it's definitely a security issue. It's definitely our kids that will be the casualties if we do not, anticipate what's coming ahead and plan as we need to as leaders.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. We're about to wrap up. Okay, yeah, Chukwemeka, you want to add something?
Okay, so something I would also want to add to the conversation is maybe a model that I'm involved in. So I happen to be the secretary to the Sector Scale Council on ICT. So that's a private sector government initiative. So just consider it as the galaxy backbone of infrastructure, but this time at ICT skills. So the goal is to empower Nigerians to get certain skill sets and certification, such that even if you don't have your traditional university or tertiary education certificate, with the certification that we will be issuing out, because this council is backed by the federal government. So with that certification, you can get ICT skills. And what we're doing is that we're also working, because sector skills is under the world skills. So we're working with partners in Europe and the other parts of the world, because there are about 100 countries that are part of sector skills. So what I'm trying to say is, because, engaging government, if government don't see that there's a crisis, they do not respond very, very quickly. So getting them to change or to invest massively in education, particularly AI education, is going to take a while. So what we do as sector skills is that we work with all the major players in technology, where they set the standards. They tell us what the standards are. Then we work with organizations that train Nigerians based on those standards, so that once you get our certificate, you can work anywhere, because you've gotten the minimum requirements. So the same thing is what we want to also, which is going to be done in AI, such that we know what the standards are. And because we are agile, we're not just like the federal government. Yes, we have the federal government on the council. It's very easy and very quick for us to kind of like reiterate our curriculum. So it's not like the federal government. And what we're also trying to do is, most of these people you mentioned that are already working in silos, we want to bring them on board. Say, okay, if we are trainers, this is what the standards are. This is what the qualifications are.
Yes.
Go out there and train people, such that if they get the certificates, they already have the skills and they already have a job-ready market for them to get employed or start building products on their own. So I think it's a model that other African countries can copy. I know Kenya is doing something similar. And if other African countries can copy that model, where you have this handshake between the private sector and the government, and they have a council that kind of like sets a curriculum and skills. And something we want to also add is that we're also advocating for apprenticeship, because with apprenticeship, people can get hands-on skills, so that they can also start their own business or build products. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Bolu?
Yeah. Relating
In
to
about a
what-
minute, please. Okay, just trying
Okay,
to.
sure. Relating to what my co-panelists have said earlier, actually, I would like to start from this. AI seems to be like we are just hearing AI from this side of the world recently. But to me, as far as I can tell, I started using AI since about 2013. Most of us actually used it, but we probably do not know. For some of us, I used maybe Nokia phones in 2013, 2012. When you're typing, then your phone predicts the next word. Let's say you're typing
Autocorrect was
autocorrect,
AI,
dictionary,
yes.
stuff like that. This is AI. This was
Yes.
AI. So, and then AI is a very fast evolving field. If you're going to bring it down to schools, are we actually ready to like match the pace of AI? Because it's unlike other classical fields like biology, mathematics, 2+2 today will always be 2+2 next year, 50 years to come. So AI is a very fast evolving field. Okay, for example, 2013 it was word embeddings, word to vec and RNN. Then 2015 RNN was forgetful. Then there was LSTM, GRU. Then 2017, that was when AI became something very, very big. The transformer models, which can literally read everything, the whole statement all at once. Then 2018, we have the BERT, BERT. That was like an AI model that could read front, then that could read from back to the front again. Then ever since then, we have GPT-1, GPT-2, 3. Now we're currently on GPT-5. So how sure are we when actually, as Nigerians or as African entirely, how sure are we that when we actually get to the future, we are not in the past? Because it's a very fast evolving field. So when we're in the future, we could still be in the past.
Yeah.
So to me, we can't afford to work in silos, just like my co-panelists. We can't afford to work in isolation. We could actually adopt Pan-Africanism in the sense that for Morocco, for example, Morocco has the biggest infrastructure when it comes to computational power in artificial intelligence. Now, we have the numbers, Nigerians, we have the numbers, we have the zeal, because I could tell from my own family, my parents will always push us, you have to go to school, even though you want to do something else. I would have been a footballer because I love football. But my parents had to like push me, you have to go to school first. Whatever you want to do, that's your own problem. Yeah, and I assume every parent like that too in Nigeria. So we have the numbers, we have the zeal. Morocco has the computational power. We have South Africa too. I believe they have the numbers too. So many things we could actually put together as Africans, which is Pan-Africanism. We can't afford to work in silos. We can't afford to do it.
All right. Thank you. That's really, really key, and I guess that's why this is Africa First conversation. So thank you very much. The final question, which is a call to action for all the panelists, we'll probably start from Lusanda and then bring it back here, is if we left here today, what is one priority? If we left here today asking what one priority for building AI talent was, what would it be? What is our one priority? We've said a lot of things today, right? And we all approach this from different lenses and different mindsets. What is the one priority for building AI talent? If we're living here right now, what would this be? Lusanda, can we start with you, please? If we left here with one priority,
Yeah,
for building
absolutely.
AI
So
talent, what would it be? Sorry, yes, please go on. Sorry.
okay, so it will definitely be education. I think we have repeatedly spoken on how fast evolving AI is. Obviously, it's existed over a long period of time, but with the introduction of different models, it has become so big. It is continually evolving. AI tools that I worked with the past 2-3 years have evolved so much, but there is that base of understanding certain things of AI that will always give you that advantage, even though the product is evolving. So definitely, it will be education without a doubt. We are in a place where education is honestly key. And fortunately, using the same AI, you're able to educate yourself in a way that works for you, in a way where you can listen to audio, you can simply take a picture of a textbook and it runs the audio for you or converts it into text. Knowledge is available. Knowledge is available. And I think it's a matter of us driving the youth, even ourselves. Actually, we're being challenged. We've got masters, we've got all these qualifications, but we're finding ourselves in a place where we need to go back and be educated all the time.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Lusanda. Mr. Shola, are you going to say education too? What is our one priority?
My one priority is to make sure everybody around me uses AI. Everybody. My driver is already. I'm even now Google Maps is.
Yes, it's
built on
AI. It is
but
AI. Yes.
Get them to actively engage with AI. There are a lot of free tools, free platforms. Even Notebook LM, one of the most powerful
Yes,
tools
yes.
that Google has built. I think there's a free version of it.
Yeah.
So I will continuously encourage and make sure everybody around me interacts with AI. I will not rest easy knowing that anybody around me is being left behind. So I'm an AI advocate. That is one thing I'll do. from
Amazing.
today.
Round of applause for that, please. Yeah, just to double check something with Mr. Shola. AI talent. Oh, I don't know if you realize this. When you mention AI talent, you've essentially mentioned your driver as AI talent, which I like because that is all of us. And we mentioned that it is an ecosystem of Gerald's pyramid, which starts from the researchers on the top level, and you and I and my grandmother on the ground level, you know. So I think that's really something I also wanted to flag in what you were saying. Bulu?
Yeah. To me, I think I'll probably come in from the individualistic approach. It starts from me, start from you, start from everyone. You can't keep saying the government should do this, the government should do that. What are you doing in person? You as a person, what are you doing? Myself, what am I doing? So just like you said, AI is like a pyramid. It's like an ecosystem. You have so many fields in AI. We tend to focus more on the end product, which is the application, which is the ChatGPT,
Yes,
the
that's what
Face
everyone
ID,
sees.
the self-driving cars, the robotic side of it. It's a very big field. You have the data side of it, you have the research side of it, you have the ethical guidelines of it, you have the policy side of it. So like it's a very big field. So if you're not everyone would sit in front of a laptop all day writing codes, programming, doing stuff like that. You could start on your own. Probably tell your mother about it. AI can do this, AI can do that. Lecture people about it. If it is data side you want to actually feature in, you can start gathering data for somebody who would need it to build a product. If it is the policies you want to start with, start making this little adjustment from your own side. Everything will not be done by the government.
Yeah,
Who is the government actually? It's me, you, yourself.
Beautifully
Just a
said.
few people making the decisions, but a part of it lies on me too. I'm a programmer. I can't do others. You as a data researcher or data collector, you can't do everything. But it starts from individual point of view. We have to do these things ourselves. Everything doesn't rely on the government.
Beautifully said. Round of applause for that, please. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
our final panelist.
Okay, so for me, to add to what my co-panelists have said, so something that is very critical that we need to start doing is basically setting up regional computing power, like regional computing centers that could help researchers that want to build AI models. There's a need for industry partnerships,
Yes.
working with industry. Also, there's also a need for African Indigenous Language Development Fund,
Mm-hmm.
because Africa is a diverse ecosystem with diverse cultures, and English is not the major speaking language. So we need to create a fund that makes it possible for people to develop in our develop relevant content that applies to our own context. And something I also want to add as a takeaway, again, capacity building is very, very important.
Yes.
We do not have an AI skill gap. What we have is an AI sovereignty crisis, and it's important we
Yes.
address it as that. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. It's an amazing panel. Lots of insights, a lot of learning. I wish we had more government people in the room while we're having this conversation. But like the panelists have said, this isn't just about the government. It starts from around us. There are multiple ways to approach this. Lusanda has mentioned private sector-led approaches that ultimately pressure the government to act. We've talked about just impacting our immediate environment with people around us. We've spoken about funds, we've spoken about capacity building, policy, all of that. All of these are legitimate concerns. And, once again, the panelists have spoken well about the priorities that we must face. So it's been a great panel. I hope the audience has enjoyed this conversation, and I'm thrilled to have been part of it as Lusanda. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us, Mr. Shola. Bolu, Chukwemeka, amazing stuff. Hopefully we can meet here in 10 years and say, I told you so, in a good way, right? So thank you, everyone, and thank you all for your time. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, let's have a photo, please. So they've been nodding online. Hey, round up this session, but that session was too interesting. I just needed us to round it up. Okay, please, I'd like to join this photo with Mr. Shola too. Okay, Lusanda, thanks for the session. How's Cape Town right now?
I'm actually in Europe at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good job on what you're doing with AI and digital marketing for the business over there. Yeah, you're working.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So I'd like to real quick also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Evans Wareroom, the manager for Digital Africa. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Chairman for Digital Africa. Yeah, please. You're welcome, sir. And also Dr. Vincent Olatunji, the National Commissioner and the CEO for Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Is represented here today by Ibukun Oluwa Owa, who is the head of the regulations unit for the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Ibukun Oluwa, you're welcome. Okay, so Ibukun Oluwa will be giving us a keynote presentation for Dr. Olatunji. But before I go ahead, I'd like to just do a little summary of the session we just had and everything they talked about. Yesterday, we were quite subtle about the bad and the ugly of AI, but on this session, they just kept letting it go. Shola just kept telling us, hey, Amazon just let go this amount of workers because they couldn't, most of them couldn't keep up with the AI growth. And also, we've also learned that the school curriculum needs to be modified and edited properly, where we know that all our students, it's no more like an optional, or what's that thing called for courses that you don't have to take? Electives, or what do they call it? Exactly. If you just make sure that this one is not, you have to take it. I think that's going to be, if I can summarize everything they said. And also, they said that the problem hasn't really changed to the school system. We need mass education, enforcement of AI tools, and also like the part where Shola talked about electing AI leaders. When he meant AI leaders, what you're trying to say is most of our leaders, people that are able to make policy, make decisions, make laws, they should have this foundational AI knowledge, not just foundational AI knowledge, but also advanced, so they can make policies that helps advance the sovereignty of AI in Africa. If I can say something, what will really advance AI in Africa is basic, or in Nigeria, if we have steady power supply. For you to build data centers to make AI models, you need GPUs, and GPUs, their power consumption is not basic. So until we can fix those power issues, we have leaders that AI compliant. I think that point we can answer, yeah, in Nigeria we're getting to the point where we can actually scale. Okay, I'm going to call on Ibukun Oluwa now to take the stage as we hear about what NDIC are doing and the great stuff they have. You're welcome, Ibukun. Round of applause, please. NDPC. Hi, you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. On behalf of Dr. Vincent Olatunji, I send his regards. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here as he has other pressing official assignments to attend to. So I would be speaking on his behalf and delivering the keynote speech. So the keynote speech that we've been asked to speak on today is titled Decolonizing Data Ownership, Consent, and Cultural Integrity. In simple terms, what it generally means is how do we move from being consumers of policies, which are technology, governance, and data processing to actually being originators and creators of that because of the crisis currently that we have in relation to Africa data and digital sovereignty. And to really speak on this, I would be posing 4 major questions to put things into context so that we can understand what is at stake here. The first question is, how much of Africa's data stays within Africa? So that means how much of data generated from Africa actually resides within Africa? Does anyone have an idea? There are some studies that have said 20%. So just 20% of data within Africa is actually stays in Africa. Where is this data going to? It's going to Europe, it's going to the States, it's going to China. What does that mean for Nigeria? We'll get into that later. There's also another survey that has shown that Africa only has about 1% of the world's current data center capacity. So basically, even the infrastructure to actually store this data and process this data, we have only about 1%, with South Africa having 50% of that 1%. So what this generally means is that we are relying so much on global providers to do different things. A lot of tier 3 and tier 4 data centers, even the ones located here, have been built in collaboration with foreign providers. And that means that they have the power to own, they have the power to manage, and they have the power to control a lot of our data. And the consequence of this is that you have our data being moved out. And what this means is that our data may now be susceptible to foreign laws and foreign jurisdictions. So for example, there's a law, a very important law called the US Cloud Act, which states that when a cloud system generates from America, the government can have access to it if required. So we all know about Google, we all know about Microsoft, we all know about Azure, and their main parent companies are in the States. So if you're using those cloud systems and there is something going on in the States and they want to do investigation, based on that act, they will be able to have access to your data if your provider is actually using one of the cloud servers of the major tech companies that originated from the States. And this means that we can be susceptible to our data being subject to privacy risks, also social engineering, and more importantly, national security. I know that in Nigeria, we currently have guidelines on data localization that was issued by NITDA, which states that there are certain data that must be stored within Nigeria. For example, we have consumer data, telecommunications data, and our foundational data, that's the NIN. But aside from that, a lot of our data actually resides outside Nigeria. So that's the first question. The second question is how much of Africa's data is moved across borders regularly? In reality, it's actually almost all of it, particularly commercially valuable data is moved outside Africa. 95% of our data is moved outside Africa regularly. It's moved through, although West Africa has a lot of subsea cables, it's actually being routed through Europe. And because of that, it's being moved to all these other countries. And what that means is that they then have the power to process this data, analyze this data, manage this data in a way that they are able to benefit from the value of this analysis. They're able to make decisions that can profit them and decisions that would not really consider Africa's national interest or our cultural interest. So for example now, when a multinational bank or a telecom company transfers customer data for processing or analytics to its headquarters in Europe, US, or Asia. And what this means, like I said before, they are the ones that then have the benefit of realizing the value of that data to make money, to make their own economy better, and they're doing it at the risk of Africa's national interest. This is really what data colonization actually means. Now, the third question, how much of the major technological companies are owned by Africa, and how much of Africa's data do they process? I know we all know these companies. We know about Oracle, we know about Meta, we know about Microsoft, we know about Amazon. There was a recent list of the most profitable companies in the world, and the top 10, I think 8 are tech companies, all Europe and mostly US based. And that is what generally we're using. We're using it in government, we're using it in businesses, we're using it to interact generally. So basically, they have most of our data. 420 million West Africans are governed by AI systems that are designed in Silicon Valley or Shenzhen in China. And we all heard about all the risks about AI that were said today. So what is the risk of this? It means that they have general decision-making power over data, about policies, about content moderation rules, and they have that power in a way that does not generally benefit us as Africans. Now, the fourth and final question. How much of the global policies that govern data is actually generated from Africa? So for example, the GDPR, which a lot of African countries have modeled their data protection laws by, and other general laws that govern technology. How many originated from Africa? There's none. So basically, they are the ones coming up with the policies that they would then use to process our data, to own our data, and to manage our data. So indirectly, it's indirect colonialism if you really think about it. For example, now the consent model that was actually originated from GDPR. We all know that in a region like Africa, where digital literacy is getting better, but it's not as high as Europe, do they really even understand what consent means? They don't read the policies. They don't understand what it means, and everyone is on. But we need their systems. We need their applications. So we are using it, but in a way that doesn't really favor us and leads to privacy risks and other general security risks as well. We know there's the Malabo Convention that was generated from Africa, and a lot of African countries have relied on it when they were actually coming up with their privacy laws. But this particular law doesn't actually govern or influence any other region in the world. And it's you can also say that the general global frameworks actually take more precedence over the Malabo Convention. So all these 4 questions should have put everything in context into what the major problems are, why they are that way, and what the risks are. So what are the solutions? What can we do now? How can we take back control? How can we manage our data? The simple answer is that we should be the ones developing our data centers. We should be the ones developing technological applications that will actually be used within Africa. But in reality, is that possible now? That is a long pipe dream. It's possible, but it will take time and take a lot of destructuring and infrastructure work and funding as well, that in all reality, we cannot get that now. So what are the interim solutions that we can actually offer to be able to face this problem of colonization? And I'll talk about 2 main solutions. The first one is collective contractual enforcement, and the second one is diplomatic and legal shield. So I'm a lawyer, so please, you just permit me because I'm speaking more from a legal perspective. The biggest problem that we have in Africa is that when it comes to technology and the foreign countries, so that's the West and China as well, is that power imbalance, because they have more of technological know-how and they also have the infrastructure as well. But what we have in Africa is we have the numbers, we have the people, and we have regional power. But I don't think that we actually know about this, and I don't also think that we actually harness this. So it's something that we need to harness. There was a recent study that was done where somebody looked at all the 15 ECOWAS states and found out that out of 10 of the 15 ECOWAS states, only 4 or 5 have AI strategies, but everyone is using a lot of the AI that has been developed by foreign partners, meaning that a lot of digital related to healthcare and credits is now being managed by Gemini and other AI tools that are foreign developed and foreign based. So what can we do? We can speak with one voice as Africa in relation to data infrastructure. We know that at this stage, we need to work with foreign partners. We still need them to work with to be able to come up with local data centers that we need, to be able to come up with applications that can be locally built and driven. However, we should be entering into agreements where we would have certain terms that will favor us and that we would fight for. And we should be speaking as a collective voice. So they know that if we go to Nigeria, it's the same thing that we'll hear if we go to Kenya as well. That's the same thing that we'll hear if we go to Cabo Verde today, and it's the same thing we'll hear if we go to Benin today. So for example now, a clause that states that even if we enter into an agreement with you for you to build local data centers here, you have to ensure that certain percentage of the local staff will be local people, so that they learn this skill and later on they are able to build it. Clauses that states that even if we would use your cloud service, there should be a clause that says that your government would not have access to our data. Those sort of clauses, and those are clauses that as Africa we should be working together to ensure that in every single African country, we are all speaking with the same voice. We would then have a more strong and collaborative voice and approach, and that gives us that now creates a more balanced power equation between the global south and the global north. So it's very important. We have to mandate local sovereignty clauses that has standard contractual clauses that stipulates that Africa's government will still own our data and will still be able to manage this, even if we're relying on some foreign expertise that they would be providing. There should be jurisdictional clauses that will state that in the event that there is a dispute, the dispute should be resolved within Africa using our own courts, using our own local dispute resolution mechanisms, and also using judges that are actually arbitrators, mediators that are actually bred from Africa. That is the only way that our own rights can be protected and fought for. There should also be clauses that will talk about audit rights and the right for the government to be able to audit when needed. So that is for collective contractual enforcement, and we need to be speaking as one voice. It can start with a regional thing, because one thing I noticed about Africa is it's harder for all of us to work together. That's the 54 states to work together. But generally, you see collaboration between blocks. So ECOWAS, SADC, and those are things we can start with those regional blocks having one voice in relation to demanding certain rights that would protect African citizens. So the second one is diplomatic and legal shield. And that generally has to do with foreign government surveillance. So putting in clauses that will limit foreign government surveillance to our data. One of them being bilateral and multilateral data protection agreements. So we should prioritize going into bilateral and multilateral data protection agreements that would protect our data from foreign interference, foreign surveillance, and will also protect our national security, as this will establish data balance and most importantly, would protect data belonging to African citizens. There should also be clauses, like I said before, on capacity building. While these are interim solutions, we need to ensure that whatever solution that we're applying now would help us to get to where we want to get to later. So there should be capacity building clauses that state that if we're entering into agreements for the development of data centers and for the use of foreign cloud systems, there should be a certain percentage of local developers that will be used, and that they should also be trained as well as they're being deployed in this sort of services, so that in the next 5 to 10 years, we can say we have more developers and we have more locally built data centers. These small steps in being done in consistent measures would help us to get to that stage where, to an extent, we can get a certain bit of our sovereignty back, as it would ensure that our technical know-how is then increased. We would then have a more strong and unified voice in relation to protecting our data. So in conclusion, the interim approach transforms the relationship from us being passive consumers of data, of foreign policies, of foreign governance, and to us now being a more powerful and unified voice that enforces the originators of policies that protect us, originators of agreements that protect us, and originators of clauses that would ensure that our people here are being locally developed and we are improving our technical know-how. That is the way for us to truly get to that place where we can say that we have our digital sovereignty and deal with the problem of decolonization. Thank you. Of colonization. Thank you.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Ife. Thank you so much, Ibokunlua. Okay. Please, a round of applause once again for her. All right, thanks, Ibukun. Please, let's have photographers. Let's have that photo. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm moving on to the next panel session, which is titled The Guardians of the Digital Frontier: Cybersecurity, Privacy, and Africa's AI Sovereignty. As Africa becomes more digital, the threats are growing, including cybercrime, data theft, and surveillance. This session will break down what cybersecurity really means in everyday terms and why it is central to AI sovereignty. So I'd like to first of all call on our panelist, our moderator for today, Precious Adeze. She's the founder of Byte Bunker. Hello, Precious. You're welcome. A round of applause for Precious, please, as she walks up to the stage. Hi, Precious. Okay. Next up on the list, I'm going to call Mr. Sadiq Nasir. Is the managing director of NetSwitch Limited. You're welcome, sir. Round of applause for him, please. Okay, great. And second, I'm going to call on Dr. Tolulokpe Pius Fadikpe, who is the head of research and development at Nigeria Data Protection Commission. You're welcome, man. Okay, do we have any of the other panelists on the online? Oh, okay. And also we have Shipra Warima. She's the vice president of the Global Council for Responsible AI Kenya chapter. You're welcome. You're welcome, Shipra. Hi, Shipra. Say hello to us.
Hello.
Okay, okay. We can hear you loud and clear. We can hear you loud and clear. Hello from Nigeria. All right. The last person on the list is
Hello from Kenya.
Bolaji Bankole. Is he with us? Is Bolaji online? Okay. All right. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Precious to Adeze and let her take us on this interesting journey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Digital Africa, for bringing this session to us. It's been an amazing journey since yesterday. Listening to all the speakers and everything they have to say, it's very imperative for us to understand that AI is not some stories that we hear, it's not a future thing, okay? According to the last speaker, he said that let us not meet AI tomorrow and be in the past of AI. So we'll be looking at the security angle to all this. And it's actually, or let me put it this way, let us not invite problems to ourselves. Yeah, that's how I want to look at it. So it's not a scary thing to use AI, but are we prepared? Are we really prepared to handle everything that comes with AI? It's a great technology, yeah, we all know that. But are we really prepared for this change that has come to stay? And I'll be giving... Do we have Dr. Shimra online? So I'll be giving them 5 minutes to air their views on what they think. They have different angles to it, but then please, I will employ us to please add other angles since we don't have the rest of our speakers here with us. Thank you. So, Dr. Nasir, can we hear from you, please?
All right. Cybersecurity is actually not important until it becomes important. So let me break that down to you. When we do advocacy, try to enlighten people on the best practice around cybersecurity, a lot of people go mute and they go deaf. And then when there's an incident, maybe a WhatsApp incident happens and then someone's WhatsApp gets compromised and then money is extracted, then we receive calls that my WhatsApp is hacked, my WhatsApp is hacked. The truth is, I was telling you this last year, but you just didn't listen. So what am I trying to say is, we need to be more deliberate around how we interact with our devices. We need to educate our parents. We need to educate our colleagues. We need to educate everyone around us, because there's no point you buy a phone for your grandma, you teach her how to use WhatsApp, and she's able to send you messages from the hometown or from the village, but yet you never told her that someone could easily compromise her WhatsApp and what she can do about it. They tend to have people that they target, certain demographics, that's the hackers. So imagine if that happens to maybe your loved one, you'll be torn apart. So what I'm trying to say is, there's a need to break down cybersecurity concept to email that is coming to you or not. Even with WhatsApp. So let me just give you into context. For the past 10 years, I've been part of the team that go out for cybersecurity awareness, and we educate people around everything else around cybersecurity. And you only get people's attention when you tell them your phone can be compromised and they can steal your money. That's when people get attention, because people like to work hard for their money and they like to keep their money. So the important thing is, we need to be more deliberate on how we protect ourselves. We need to educate even the younger ones. The younger ones are more vulnerable than ever. A lot of us have kids right now. They're probably at home, some of us, some of them having their midterms. And what do they do with devices? How do they spend time? These are all things that we as parents, we as CEOs, we as startups, we need to be able to ask ourselves. If you're a new startup, have you thought about developing an AI-powered solution that is like cybersecurity centric, that can help keep your parents safe? If you're a parent, have you thought about looking for a software solution, maybe an application that you can install on your phone that can limit or monitor what your kids do? These are all questions we need to ask ourselves. And this is not rocket science. This is real life. A few years ago, before everybody started talking about AI, I was privileged to be a part of a project called One Laptop Per Child, which was pushed down by the MIT, that's American University. And one of the things we noticed that we went to a rural school somewhere in Abuja. When I mean rural school, like a school that don't have internet, they don't have all the luxuries of electricity and whatnot. And we gave them this $100 laptops. Within 20 minutes, these kids have never seen a laptop before. I mean, then there was no tablets. I'm talking about close to about 15, 16, 17 years ago, thereabout. Then tablets were not much. And we heard a screaming noise coming from the classroom. And then everybody was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So I said, okay, let me walk to the back of the classroom, because that's where the noise is originating from. As I went to the back, they covered the laptops. And I got curious as to what were they doing with these, like what they were doing. Then someone told me that, oh, they were watching pornography. These are kids that have never seen a laptop before. They've never had access to internet ever. They're like from the rural home. But within 20 minutes, someone was able to say, okay, this is what we do. Let's go and find porn. And they find it exciting. So these are some of the dangers I'm bringing to us as parents, as business owners, as someone with loved ones. We need to ask ourselves. And sometimes people come to me and say, okay, what do? I have cybersecurity issue. I'm like, I don't know it all. I might be a professional, but I don't know it all. Because the truth is, sometimes these threat actors, what I mean by threat actors, that the bad people, they're actually 10 steps ahead of you. And we have to start thinking in that direction, because cybersecurity is more of a mental game, like having that awareness. Technology comes in second. You are human resources in your office. Have you thought about conducting a cybersecurity awareness for the team in your office? A lot of organizations, they spend millions and millions of naira, equipping their teams with latest softwares, latest everything else. But have you ever trained your staff? Okay, fine, you've trained them, but how frequent? Some people say you have to do awareness every year, like once at least every year for your team, because it only takes one staff to click on that malicious email and your entire network infrastructure comes to a halt. These are not far-fetched stories. We've seen it in airports around the world. I think just last month, was it Heathrow or somewhere, Their systems were compromised. So the thing I'm saying is, we as Nigerians, we shouldn't think of cybersecurity as their problem. That's the IT guys and whatnot. We should think of it as, it's also my problem. What can I do to keep my parents safe? What can I do to keep my kids safe? What can I do to keep my organization safe? A way around this is we have to seek for knowledge. Nobody knows it all. Just ask questions. You have colleagues, you have IT guys, ask them question. Oh, how do I protect my laptop? A simple solution might be just to lock your laptop every time you're stepping out, because that 1 minute can leave your colleague to compromise your system. It doesn't take much. You might be working together, but everyone has different motives. Maybe he's trying to get a promotion ahead of you. Maybe he's just evil intent. I don't know, but I'm just saying these things happen. Whenever you are working with a laptop in an environment, you have to make sure that it's locked. So there are several tips that I could give us, but I'm trying to keep the conversation short to tell you that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. It's a responsibility that involves you and I, and AI can help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. So we have Dr. Tolu. Dr. Tolu, would like to hear from you before I...
All right, thank you. The issue of artificial intelligence is quite interesting. It's what you can't avoid. So because when you start thinking about artificial intelligence, so people are running away from it. You can't run away from it. When the last panelist spoke, the guy was talking about when we use Nokia. So it means that we've been using AI ever since we started using Nokia. The only thing is that AI developed. And in the era of AI, there's a privacy risk. And when you talk about AI depends heavily on data. So the question I want to ask you is that who is feeding AI this data? It is you and I. So a good example is you're on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, etc. You always maybe on the platforms that sell food, clothes, a certain type of clothes. After a while, you start see your Facebook or your social media handle suggesting things that unlock your pattern of thought. What does it mean? That study your pattern of thought because you have fed it that data. Now, what has Nigeria done? Nigeria has enacted the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023. And the purpose of that act is to regulate the processing of personal information. And personal information also translates to personal data. So most people are not even conscious of what they do with their data. Now we have personal data. We also have sensitive personal data. Your personal data are your name, your address, your email, BVN, etc. Your sensitive personal data are your health records, genetic, political affiliation, things that can be used to discriminate against you. Of recent, I was at a conference. It's about cocoa, and it's about the EU DHRU compliance for cocoa farmers. That is, if they want to take their cocoa to the EU, they need to meet some certain terms. So now what they've done is that they do geolocation for cocoa farms. And when I spoke, I told them that there's a risk there. There's a risk that someone is able to hack into that system and is able to see what that farmer is doing in life on his farm. So the issue of artificial intelligence is moving into our day-to-day activities. Now, there are some key challenges that are issues with AI. And the first thing is over-collection of data. So for AI to work, it needs large set of data. So it collects a lot of data, even data that are not useful. So the first thing is data minimization, to ensure that AI collects only data that is necessary about you. Two, under the Act, we have what we call right of data subject. So we have the data controller. That is the people that take your data and determine the use of your data, like your Facebook. We now have the data processor that processes data on behalf of the data controller. And of course, we have ourselves, we are the data subjects. Now you have data subject rights. So one of the beautiful things the Act has done is the right to be informed. So the fourth question about yourselves are most of you, when you start using AI or you download all these emerging technologies, you don't even read the privacy policy that says it's going to collect your data and what it's going to do with your data. So the right to be informed. Most importantly is the right to object to automated decision making. So if you're talking about AI, that is, AI can take a decision without human intervention. So as a data subject, you have a right to object to decision based on automated processing. Then the issue of consent is very, very important. Before they can even process this data, they need your consent. Most of us just give consent. So if you download app, most of these apps, they use artificial intelligence. So most of us, when we download our app, we just download the app. We don't even check the privacy settings of the app. So that is why most apps listen to your conversation. That is why if we are talking about maybe I want to buy cars now, the next thing you start seeing is cars. How come? Because you are giving it access. Artificial intelligence is very good. It's very good. But we have to create like a balance between artificial intelligence and privacy. And what the Commission has done for that to help AI and emerging technology is that we have what we call our guide. That is the General Implementation and Application Directive, which is meant to implement the Act. So under Section 43, yes, 43, we have guidelines for emerging technologies. So anybody deploying emerging technology in Nigeria, the first thing they need to put in place is technical and organizations measures. So people from cybersecurity, they're very conversant with that. You have to put pressures in place to ensure that the data you have is well guided, that nobody can breach. Like I said earlier on, the moment there's a new technology, someone is waiting there to hack it. They are hackers. That is what they will do. So that's why when you have your phone, you keep seeing a notification saying that you should update your app, that there's a vulnerability. If you do it today, tomorrow, because they had their hands, they are trying to also patch up any vulnerable aspects that hackers will go into. So the issue of artificial intelligence is very critical. So for that guide, we also made a provision that when deploying apps that use artificial intelligence, there has to be privacy by design, privacy by default. You know, I mentioned earlier on that when we download this app, we just give them access. So by default, the app is meant to be private. So by default, you go to your app now, you see that you have options to put off microphone, to put off contacts. In the same way, the issue of these shark loans. What happens? They download the app. And once they download the app, immediately you're already giving consent. If you look at the policy, you've already given them consent to take your data and to start advertising your obituary or just do something scandalous. You gave them the access to do that. But now, at the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, we are raising people's consciousness to that you have your rights over your data. You need to be able to control your data. You need to be careful how you train AI. A good example is a news society this year where a child, I think in the US, committed suicide. And how did the child commit suicide? Through AI. So I think he was chatting with, I'm not sure if it's GPT, I'm not sure, and was telling the chatbot that he wants to commit suicide, and his chatbot told the child how to commit suicide. Through interaction, through the data the child has fed into the AI system. And that's why you see that people like Google, Meta, they are taking the issue of data privacy very seriously. And like you said, we need to now educate our children. We need to educate our grandma, our grandmom in the village. Okay, talking about Coco now. Maybe your grandmom is a Coco. A Coco now is going online. That means our data too has to go online. So the first thing is, number one, human capital development. And what the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Communications and Digital Economy has done, under which we have NDPC, of recent they launched a program alongside Google, and that program is AI Campus, and we have Hub Politica. So it's meant for public servants. So according to that research, it says that about 59% public servants use AI, but only 15% of them are trained on the use of AI. So what that causes door for public servants, number one, is that they can go online and learn about artificial intelligence. So in conclusion, not to bore you too much, when you talk about artificial intelligence, you also need to balance it with the issue of privacy. Thank you.
Okay, please a round for applause for them, please. These are my top orgazo. I don't know how you people are. Your clap is not even going anywhere, please. She actually was one of those that trained me in data protection, and this is also another orga that I always look up to. So please, and also please gather your questions. You have like 2 minutes to ask questions, but that will be after I ask my own question, Abby. At least I'm the orga for this session, Abby. So after I ask my own question, I'll give you 2 minutes to ask your own questions. Thank you. All right. So my question goes to Dr. Nasir. Being very, very involved in building technologies regarding cybersecurity, how, or rather, what are the implications of using all these foreign technologies on our African data?
The use of foreign technology has several implications. For instance, most of these solutions that are built do not understand our local context. Recently, I was doing a project, so I was using one of these AI solutions. And the more I interact with it, the more I discover that it knows very little about Nigeria, very little about Northern Nigeria, zero to nothing about Northern Nigeria or the Hausa culture. I mean, it knows what it knows, but the level of understanding was very, very poor. So and I said, okay, maybe I should look for trouble. I sent them an email saying that, hello guys, hi. I noticed that your software issues get key-leg like this. They said, okay, what do you mean? I said, okay, can we look at how we can work together to improve how it understands Nigeria? They said, oh yeah. It's what they're looking at for the long term, So what she was trying to say politely was, Nigeria is not within their radar, like in terms of what they need to build. So that's when it hit me that, look, we should stop depending on this Western world for everything. We tend to depend on them for everything. We have a lot of young talent. You know, we have to find a way to like keep encouraging them. It's not easy, but we have a lot of young talent. I've seen a lot of young people develop cybersecurity solutions around. And when they go to big organizations around, to sell their product becomes a problem for them, largely because nobody knows them. So the question now is, how do we promote these local companies? How do we promote them? If you look at when most government organizations, when they have their tenders, you'd see you must produce BPP, you must produce Pencom, you must produce, the list is endless, like 5, 6, 7, which is fine. But the question is, for someone that just graduated the university, he has a lot of talent. He teamed up with his classmates and he builds solutions. How can he get all those documents? So that's a big question I'm throwing out to all of us. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying that these are the realities. And these young people, how can we push them to bypass this? I'm not saying that we should bypass them, but how can we navigate those contemporary challenges? Because the truth is, so as long as we don't have our own local solutions, we should not have these conversations around data sovereignty. Because when someone else builds it, he controls what to do with your data. He decides what to do with it. So we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to promote these local startups. We have to give them funding. We need a lot of venture capitalists. We need a lot of angel investors in this space, because a lot of these guys might have the solutions. I'll tell you a simple, something that happened to me during the week. Just before I went to bed, I saw one of my colleagues put up a challenge that they built an application with AI in 4 hours, and it was fully functional Compass. I said, okay. I've never tried building an application with no codes, nothing, just prompt. I went online and I found a software solution that built me a Compass in 7 minutes. when the thing finished, I had to step aside and just clap for AI and just clap for myself, because it was really, really amazing. And then during the week, I was having a conversation with a team of land surveyors, and I was telling them the power of AI. And I brought the application, the Compass, and I showed them. I said, look, I know nothing about geography. The last time I did geography was close to 30 years ago when I was in secondary school. I know that there's X and Y coordinates, but what I had was the idea that someone gave me an idea that, okay, someone challenged me rather. And I was just able to put that in a prompt. It has its challenges. It was not perfect, but what I'm saying is solutions can be built right now with less effort. So really these days to sit down and say, I don't have money, I don't think that should be the conversation. The conversation is, where can I get a laptop? Where can I get data? Once you have these two, just the next thing is just have an idea. How can I start building solutions? And some of the solutions might not work. Some of them might be working with Kayla, but at least let's encourage these young people, because they are the ones with the energy. A lot of us that have crossed the 40 years of, since birth, our level of thinking and our level of taking risk has really changed, because the truth is you have to feed your family. There's a certain level of risk you cannot take, or we cannot take at that level. So that's why I'm encouraging the younger ones who have energy, who have time to take risk, to build these applications. They don't have to work, they can be scrappy, and just knock into my colleague's office and say, look, I have a solution for your office. And then the office should be able to say, okay, let's look at it, let's look at it. We might not buy it now, but at least let's look at it. Let's have conversations around how we can improve on it. So until we get to that stage, we would always talk about data sovereignty. Google is taking my data. Facebook, they would take your data, and they would do what they want because they are guided by the laws of their countries, which is fine. But we have to start thinking in that direction. How can we constantly evolve these laws? Because a lot of these laws, the cybersecurity laws that govern this country, I think there's a timeline of 5 years of review. So the same applies for the data protection. I don't know what the timeline is, but several other laws that guard our data, AI and everything else, we need to constantly review them. And when we're reviewing these policies, it's not a question of getting experts to